Andrew Weissman, obviously I'm posing it theoretical, but wasn't this the slippery slope, the standard that was created by lumping together the one that isn't like any of the others, the Trump criminal investigation, by having the same person called the same thing investigate both?
Well, look, this is going to put Merrick Garland in a bit of a quandary as to what the standard is going to be, because you just can't have a special counsel every single time some issue comes up, because you have to remember it is not a crime to have classified documents in your possession if you don't know it. It can be a mistake. It can be something that raises national security issues, but it's not always worthy of a criminal investigation. There is one thing that Merrick could do here, and that is he could go the route that he did with President Biden and have somebody do a preliminary look. That's not actually opening a criminal investigation. It is a preliminary assessment. So that is one option that he has available to him. And there also is a marked difference between investigating Joe Biden, who is his boss, and investigating somebody who is not his boss. I mean, the Department of Justice is supposed to be able to do investigations of Democrats and Republicans, and the reason for the special counsel, sort of regulations, is to give the public this extra confidence when you are investigating essentially the person who you report to. But I could see this sort of interim solution, especially because it really appears that Mike Pence's counsel learned from what the current president did and the former president did, and has really fully cooperated and gone public with everything. So that could prove to be a difference that gets him out of the same kind of hot water that the former president and current president is in. Are you currently confident that we won't have a slew of special counsels investigating former very senior officials? I mean, and I take your point, fair enough. Biden's his boss, that's the difference. But the Gates investigation was opened by Barr. Nothing's come of it under Garland. What high-profile Republican has Garland investigated or seemed willing to investigate, Andrew? Well, you're raising another important issue, which is that Merrick Garland seems to have a predilection when there's an investigation of a Republican that he appoints a Republican, but he doesn't do the same when it's a Democrat. He seems to, have basically taken the message from the attack on Robert Mueller as let's avoid that. Am I confident, Nicole? Absolutely not. I really do think this is going to involve some backbone on the part of the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General to really draw a line on when they really think there's a factual predicate for finding some sort of intent, because that's the key fact. And obviously there's zero evidence of obstruction either in the Biden case or in the Pence case, which is a huge differentiator with respect to the former president.
And I mean, Andrew, and I don't mean to drill down near any raw nerves here, and I don't mean to pick on the current attorney general, but all we as a general public have is what's public facing. And here's what's public facing. We got to see the affidavit that led to a court-approved search at Donald Trump's house. And there were more crimes ticked off in that than many mob bosses go to jail for committing. Nothing has happened. And now the whisper that's just starting to seep into public commentary is that the Biden case can make it really hard to bring that case. And again, I'm not a lawyer. Maybe that's true. But what the Pence case does is bring into focus the point you're making, that the apples to apples are Pence and Biden. And if there's no special counsel needed for Pence, why was one needed for Biden, Andrew?
Look, I think that is really the issue, and I think you're going to be hearing sort of surrogates for the White House making that point, which is that this was sort of jumping too quickly to appointing a special counsel, that there wasn't, yes, there was communications failure, but this wasn't anything that involves obstruction of justice or knowing and intentional possession. So it is going to put front and center that issue. But with respect to Rob Hur, the die is really cast. I mean, that is already in place. So it's now going to be really Merrick Garland looking at this saying, you know what, I really have to think about the next case and the next case. I mean, it just cannot be that we're going to have a slew of special counsels. It's just way too distracting from the body politic and the sort of policy issues we should be worried about.
Joyce, one of the, I think you all know this by now, one of the things I keep my eye on is the right-wing spin as being too kind. Disinformation and misinformation are usually more accurate, but we'll call it spin. The spin that the right has put on and the crumb or the breadcrumb they keep dropping is, I was a lawyer doing the search at Biden's office or home. Well, in the case of Pence, a lawyer was doing the search at Pence's home. Because if you think there might be someone there, the thing that you do is you have a lawyer, and not even any lawyer, but a lawyer with security clearances. So, I mean, what does this case sort of blow open in your mind?
Right. So I've always thought, and I think, Nicole, we had that conversation the day this news broke about Biden, that the logical thing to do would be to have your lawyer looking through your old papers for a lot of different reasons, not because anyone expected there was classified material there. But to your conversation with Andrew, I guess I'm trying to look on the bright side of this. Maybe this finally means we'll get the first black or the first woman as a special counsel. That hasn't happened yet. And it looks like as more former government officials do prudential searches, Merrick Garland may well have put himself into a box where he feels obligated to use that process. But the special counsel regs are very specific. They only tell the Attorney General to appoint a special counsel if a crime has been committed. And that's why Andrew is so right when he says the first step here is to have somebody do a first look to see if a crime has been committed. And perhaps the entire issue that we're facing now is the fact that this Justice Department, where the Attorney General has said repeatedly that he's very interested in restoring public confidence in the Justice Department, that he took that too far when he appointed a special counsel in the Biden situation. And now you'll forgive me, I think those chickens are about to come home and roost. And we'll see the consequences when DOJ doesn't do its... the chicken lady. But, I mean, in a very real sense, right, this was always DOJ's responsibility. I get that Joe Biden is in some sense Merrick Garland's boss. Garland is supposed to be pushing the narrative of DOJ's independence and demonstrating his integrity by taking the hard cases. It seems to me that now we're on a slippery slope, and it's going to be tough for Garland to backtrack and say, I'm going to draw the line here. We did it once. No more special counsels. DOJ can certainly handle this. That's what he should do, as long as political optics don't continue to interject here.
Well, I think political optics are the driving force at this Justice Department. From the outside, that is a fair read. I want to follow with you, though, Joyce, on a point that Andrew made, because all the reporting in the New York Times and the Post on the timing of the special counsel for Trump has the announcement to run for president as sort of a triggering event. I mean, Pence plans to run for president. Part of the reason everyone understands he wasn't cooperative with the congressional inquiry into the assassination attempt on his and his family's life, the January 6th insurrection, was for political considerations. Mike Pompeo plans to run for president. Nikki Haley has designs on being president. John Bolton, I think, has already said in a British interview that he intends to run for president. These are all people who were in the same category as Joe Biden and Donald Trump. They plan to run for president. And that second group, excluding Donald Trump, we know Pence had something classified. Should we go check if any of these other people who might want to run for president plan to sort of disclose anything that they inadvertently took that may be classified? I mean, should we run this to the ground now so that we can understand what the Justice Department's standard is for special counsel to investigate a likely presidential candidate who inadvertently took classified documents and voluntarily returned them?
Right. So I don't think that that's what the standard really was, Nicole. I think it's clear that we saw the appointment of the first special counsel because they understood that Biden had classified documents too. And the special counsel was not appointed for Trump until after DOJ was aware of that. That, history will tell. No one has come out and said that yet, but that looks to me like a strong motivating factor. The announcement of the candidacy may have been helpful in pushing that across the finishing line. And maybe that is the standard that DOJ will land on. One suspects that anybody who's planning on running for office in the future, or maybe who wants to seek an office that's not elective in the future, is now finding their own attorney with some form of classification experience to engage in a prudential search of any government boxes that they have in their home. It might be easy for folks to rip off the Band-Aid as part of the herd here. But the real concern that we need to think about is the national security implications here. We've talked a lot about legal considerations and political considerations. Here's where the national security considerations need to be front and center. Most of the White House, as you well know, is a SCIF. So there's a much, I think, freer use of classified documents. It may be easier within the confines of the White House for something to stay on somebody's desk and get packed up. I don't know, but someone needs to get a handle on that. There needs to be a determination of whether this is a White House problem limited to the White House. And then the incoming White House chief of staff will have the job of writing better regulations and cleaning the problem up. Or is it a wider problem in government? That's the most important thing right now. Top secret documents are documents that, if they are released into the wrong hands, could do grave damage to national security. Right now, we need to get our hands on what kind of a problem we're looking at.